Hey everybody, how's it going? This session of the Minnesota Senate Committee on Agriculture, Veterans, Broadband, and Rural Development is now in order. We have a very busy, long, and fun day ahead of us. So with Senator Herr, or not. That's our first order of business. Our second order of business is the budget for the Department of Agriculture, Board of Animal Health, and Agriculture Utilization Research Institute. Then following that, we will adjourn after we've done the walkthrough for the state budget on those issues. And then we will reconvene as the subcommittee on Veterans and Military Affairs. Let's take a minute to ourselves for just 1 second. Excuse us for a moment while we trade some players.
Yep, that's your side.
Okay, we're ready to rock and roll. Senator Putnam, Senate File 2458.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Senate File 2458 is the budget for the Department of Agriculture, Board of Animal Health, and the Agriculture Utilization Research Institute. Mr. Chair, I think it's most appropriate and most efficient for us to just go directly through the walkthrough and ask Council to talk it through for us, if we would, please.
Sure. We'll start on the fiscal side. Mr. Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. In your packets, you should have two separate spreadsheets, one detailed spreadsheet and one shorter change item spreadsheet. What I'll walk through is the shorter change items over the base budget spreadsheet. So in the top left, it's a total of 3 pages, but top left corner, it says Agriculture, Broadband, and Rural Development, 2025 Senate Ag Committee dash Senate File 2458 A3 DE Amendment, Change Items dash Update. So just to orient you to the spreadsheet, column A shows the different departments and change items. Column B shows from which fund those change items come. Column C shows the type of appropriation. Columns D through F show the governor's recommendations, and columns G through M, which is what I'll be focusing on today, shows the governor's the DE amendment before you. So just to give you an overline base, the committee's base general funding for the Department of Ag, Board of Animal Health, AURI, and the DEED Office of Broadband Development is $151.786 million from the general fund each biennium. This committee received general fund targets for fiscal years 25 through 27 for a savings of $313,000 from the general fund. And then for the 28 to 29 biennium, or the tails, new spending of $2.928 million from the general fund. So to begin walking through the spreadsheet of the change items, I'll start on line 8. So on line 8, the chair recommends $100,000 from the general fund for wolf compensation. This comes from Senate File 469, a Senator Johnson bill. So $100,000 in 26-27 of additional spending, and $100,000 in 28-29 from the general fund of additional spending. Moving on down to line 9 for elk crop damage compensation, also from Senate File 469 from Senator Johnson. It's an identical $100,000 increase from the general fund in 26-27 and $100,000 in 28-29 from the general fund. Moving on down to line 10, this is the operating adjustment from Senate File 2458, or the agency budget bill, which Senator Putnam carried. This is $1.344 million in 26-27 from the general fund and $1.848 million from the general fund in the tails. On line 11, this is just a revised governor's recommendation to move the climate coordinator position from the Administration and Financial Services Division to the Protection Services Division. So here you'll see $300,000 of additional spending within this division in 26-27 and $300,000 from the general fund in 28-29. But you'll see the identical savings within the Administration and Financial Services Division. On line 12, the chair recommends additional spending for meat inspection of $702,000 in the 26-27 biennium from the general fund and $900,000 in the 28-29 biennium from the general fund. On line 13, this is PFAS language alignment. This also comes from the agency budget bill. This has no direct general fund impact. Moving on down to the Ag Marketing and Development Division. On line 16 for Farm Safety, Health, and Wellness, this comes from Senate File 2809 from Senator Kunesh. There's $150,000 in the 26-27 biennium from the general fund and $100,000 in the 28-29 biennium. On line 17, this is the green fertilizer grant reduction. This comes from the agency budget bill of a savings of $3 million in fiscal year 25 to the general fund. On line 18 for the farm business management through Mail C, this is within the transfer to AGREET, or the Agriculture Research, Education, and Extension Technology Transfer. This comes from Senate File 1178 from Senator Kupek. This is additional funding for the farm business management program of $250,000 in the 26-27 biennium and $250,000 in the 28-29 biennium. On line 19, also through AGREET, this is for the Minnesota Agriculture and Rural Leadership, or MARL, program. This comes from Senate File 3037 from Senator Dames. This would be a carve-out within AGREET, so not new spending, but a carve-out of $75,000 from the discretionary AGREET funding of $75,000 each year for a total of $150,000 carve-out in 26-27 and $150,000 carve-out of AGREET in 28-29. Moving on down to line 20 for the biofuel incentives grant reduction within Agri. The chair recommends reduction of that appropriation by $250,000 each fiscal year. So a reduction of $500,000 to the general fund in 26-27 and a savings of $500,000 in 28-29. On line 21 for the biofuels infrastructure grant, the chair recommends a similar reduction of $250,000 each fiscal year for savings to the general fund of $500,000 in 26-27 and $500,000 in 28-29. On line 22, there's a within Agri again, the biofuels infrastructure grant. This is an eligibility increase of sites from 10 to 20. We saw this in Senate Files 881 from Senator Kupek and Senate File 1507 from Senator Dornick. So this would just increase the eligibility of the sites for the grant program from 10 to 20. On line 23, but that doesn't have a direct general fund impact. On line 23 for the Farm to School and Early Care program within Agri, this comes from Senate File 1559 from Senator Gustafson. There's additional spending to the program of $300,000 from the general fund in 26-27 and $300,000 in 28-29. On line 24, there's a reduction to the urban agriculture grant program within Agri. for a savings of $800,000 to the general fund of each fiscal year, for a savings of $1.6 million in 26-27, and a savings of $1.6 million in 28-29. On line 25, no direct general fund impact, but an adjustment to the urban ag eligibility. It expands it. This comes from the agency budget bill. On line 26, again, an update to the Good Food Access Program to now be the Food Retail Improvement and Development Program. This also comes from the agency's budget bill. Moving on down to line 27, this is for the Protect grants specified for avian influenza through Agri. This idea comes from something similar in Senate File 1839, but different. Which was carried by Senator Putnam. There's $250,000 in fiscal year 26, one time from the general fund for the Protect grant specified for avian influenza. Moving on down to line 29, there's a reduction of $1.5 million to the Dairy with an I program from the original appropriation of $4 million. On lines 30 and 31, these come from the governor's revised recommendations of an extension of the Agri appropriation as a corpus. It's a technical fix that otherwise $8.2 million would cancel to the general fund. So with this technical fix, the appropriation in FY25, the whole appropriation is extended. Excuse me. And so on lines 30, you see the reduction of $8.2 million and then the reappropriation for to follow our new budget rules of the corresponding $8.2 million being extended. On line 32, no direct general fund impact, but it's just an expansion of the livestock investment grant program within Agri. That also comes from the agency's recommendations. Moving on down to the Administration and Financial Assistance Division within MDA. On line 35, this comes from Senate File 296 from Senator Dames. There's 100, and this is for Male C grants. It's $100,000 of additional spending in 26-27 and $100,000 from the general fund in 28-29. On line 36 for the Minnesota Poultry Association from Senate File 2958 from Senator Frentz, there's $2,000 one time in FY26. On line 37 for the Minnesota Livestock Breeders from Senate File 1805 from Senator Dames, there's $36,000 in the 26-27 biennium from the general fund one time. Moving on to page 2 of the spreadsheet. And on line 38 for the Northern Crops Institute from Senator Kupek, there's $60,000 one time from the general fund in the 26-27 biennium. On line 39 for the Minnesota State Horticultural Society from Senate File 2217 from Senator Seeberger, there's $70,000 one time from the general fund over the 26-27 biennium. On line 40 for the Center for Rural Policy and Development, there's $50,000 one time in the 26-27 biennium. On line 41 for the Minnesota Turf Seed Council from Senate File 2137 from Senator Johnson, there's $80,000 in the 26-27 biennium, also from the general fund, also one time. On line 42 from Senate File 1121 from Senator Frentz, there's $100,000 in the 26-27 biennium from the general fund, one time. On line 43, there's a carve out of the Second Harvest Heartland appropriation to purchase food from the Good Acre. This comes from Senate File 629 from Senator Kupek. So $500,000 of that appropriation each fiscal year is now to purchase food from the Good Acre. So that's why the numbers on the spreadsheet are in brackets. It doesn't have a new cost to the general fund. On line 44, the operating adjustment for this division at MDA, this comes from the agency's budget bill. There's $340,000 of additional spending from 26-27 from the general fund, and then $406,000 from the general fund in FY 28-29. Here on line 45, here's where I mentioned the climate coordinator position that moved to protection services. This comes from the revised governor's recs. Here's the corresponding savings of the $150,000 each fiscal year. On line 46, here's the new, or the appropriation for the local food purchasing assistance program from Senate File 2430 from Senator Kunesh. There's $500,000 from the general fund in 26-27 and $500,000 in 28-29. On line 47, you'll see the agriculture emergency account transfer. This comes from the revised governor's recommendations. While the governor transfers $4 million in FY26, the chair recommends transferring $1.5 million immediately in FY25. So for a total general fund impact to MDA on line 48, you can see a net savings in column G, a net savings of $3 million in FY25, new spending of $1.934 million in 26-27, and new spending of $2.04 million from the general fund in 28-29. Now moving to Board of Animal Health, there's one change item on line 52. This comes from the agency budget bill of new spending of $617,000 in 26-27 for an operating adjustment from the general fund and $742,000 from the general fund in 28-29. This is $250,000 higher than the governor's recommendations each biennium. On line 57, so that's the only change item for Board of Animal Health. For AURI, there's an operating adjustment on line 57, also from the agency's budget recommendations, agency budget bill, of $136,000 of new spending in 26-27 from the general fund and $182,000 in 28-29 from the general fund. There are no new recommendations for DEED Office of Broadband Development. On line 71, you'll see the total general fund savings of $3 million, total general fund spend of $3,025,000. This is in column G. In column J, there's new spending of $2.687 million from the general fund, and new in 26-27, and $2.928 million in 28-29. So on page 3. Line 75, you can see our target, as I said, was a savings over FY25 through 27 of $313,000 to the general fund and $2.928 million of new spending in 28-29. On line 77, you can see that we've the DE amendment before you meets that target. And I'll briefly mention the non-general fund expenditures and new revenues as well. On line 79, there's a seed tonnage reporting frequency reduction. This doesn't have a direct impact on the ag fund. On line 80 for the grain license fee update to the ag fund, there would be $900,000 of new expenditures in 26-27 and $900,000 in 28-29. There's a corresponding new revenue as well, as you'll see on line 89. On line 81, for seed potato certification statute modernization, there's reduced spending of $80,000 in 26-27 and reduced spending in 28-29 of $80,000 to the ag fund as well. On line 82 for the milk marketing modernization, it's $10,000 of new spending in 26-27 and $10,000 from the ag fund in 28-29. There's also corresponding identical revenue. On line 83 for the food licensing modernization change item, also all these change items comes from the agency's budget bill. There's $5.065 million in 26-27 of new spending with corresponding revenue and $5.14 million in 28-29. And there are on lines 84 and 85, there are updates to the Rural Finance Authority and the Agricultural Best Management Practices program updates, but those don't have direct impacts on the ag fund. And with that, that concludes my walkthrough of the spreadsheet. I'd be happy to answer questions.
What would you prefer? Do you want to do the policy part too and then take questions? Sure, we'll do that. Ms. Painter, go ahead.
Mr. Chair and members, I'll take you through the rest of the articles in the bill, starting with Article 3, which contains miscellaneous agricultural policy provisions. Sections 1 through 9 are all from Senate File 2458. That's the Department of Agriculture's budget bill authored by Senator Putnam. So Section 1 changes the name of the Good Food Access Program to the Food Retail Improvement and Development Program, modifies some definitions, and specifies that projects must serve underserved communities, modifies the report to the legislature, and makes conforming changes. Section 2 makes more conforming and technical changes related to the advisory committee for the Food Retail Improvement and Development Program. Section 3 modifies the purpose of the Agriculture Best Management Practices Loan Program to support landowners. Section 4 raises the maximum statutory amount the Public Facilities Authority can appropriate from the Clean Water Revolving Fund for the Agriculture Best Management Practices Loan Program. Section 5 modifies the allowable amount for a grant award in the Livestock Investment Grant Program to equal 50% of the first $20,000 of qualifying expenditures and 20% of the next $200,000 of qualifying expenditures, and allows a project to continue for up to 3 years. Section 6 amends the definition of livestock for the purposes of the Livestock Investment Grant Program to include more species of animals, including aquaculture. Section 7 amends eligibility for livestock investment grants to include tribal governments. Section 8 clarifies language relating to family relationships and the definition of eligible farmer for the Down Payment Assistance Grant Program. Section 9 amends the PFAS prohibition, so the subdivision no longer applies to cleaning products as defined in Section 18B01, Subdivision 4D, and would instead apply to products listed in Section 116.943. Section 10 is from the Department of Agriculture's policy bill, Senate File 2610, authored by Senator Putnam. It adds a subdivision to the powers and duties of the commissioners section of the fertilizer, soil amendment, and plant amendment chapter that would allow the commissioner to coordinate public health protection from unreasonable adverse effects of fertilizers. Section 11 adds a new subdivision to the dairy law definitions to define the term milk marketer. This is from the Department of Agriculture's budget bill. Section 12 adds a new section requiring a license for any milk marketer and specifies terms, fees, penalties, and license and permit requirements for licensees. It's also from the department budget bill. Section 13 is from Senate File 739, authored by Senator Westrom. It allows the state veterinarian to issue a permit to certain zoos to import live cervidae from another state if the cervidae are part of a herd that is in the United States Department of Agriculture herd certification program or subject to equivalent disease surveillance. Section 14 is from Senate File 621, authored by Senator Dames, modifies the ASTM specification for the definition of ethanol in the ethanol development section of the agricultural development chapter. Section 15 is from Senate File 1359, authored by Senator Rest, adds clarifying language in the biofuel production incentive section. Section 16 modifies the definition of sustainable aviation fuel for the tax credit to allow it to be derived from gaseous carbon oxides produced from biomass or direct air capture or green electrolytic hydrogen in addition to biomass. This is from Senate File 1515, authored by Senator Westrom. Section 17 amends the beginning farmer loans to state that no loan may be less than $50,000. This is from the department's budget bill. Section 18 amends the definition of beginning farmer in the beginning farmer tax credit program to include an individually owned limited liability company or a limited liability company owned by two individuals who are family members. The section also strikes the definition of emerging farmer and inserts a definition for a limited land access farmer. This section came from 3 different bills: Senate File 1419 from Senator Putnam, Senate File 1428, authored by Senator Weber, and the department's policy bill, Senate File 2610. Section 19 modifies the due dates for applications in the beginning farmer tax credit program and makes a conforming change related to limited land access farmers. This is from Senate File 1419, authored by Senator Putnam. Section 20 modifies the dates for tax allocations in the beginning farmer tax credit program. This is from the department's policy bill, Senate File 2610. Section 21 makes conforming changes related to a report for the beginning farmer tax credit program. That's from Senate File 1419, authored by Senator Putnam. Sections 22 through 31 are all from the Department of Agriculture's budget bill, Senate File 2458. Section 22 amends the loan restructuring program to state that loans may not be less than $50,000. Section 23 amends the seller-sponsored program to state that loans may not be less than $50,000. Section 24 amends the agricultural improvement loan program to state that loans may not be less than $50,000. Section 25 amends the livestock expansion and modernization loan program to state that loans may not be less than $50,000. Section 26 amends the eligibility for the disaster recovery loan program to require that a borrower's total net worth be less than $5 million. Section 27 modifies the pilot agricultural microloan program, so it is no longer a pilot program, and loans may be used for purchasing agricultural land. Section 28 modifies the Farm Opportunity Loan Program to reduce the purposes of the loans. Section 29 amends the eligibility for the Farm Opportunity Loan Program to require that a borrower's total net worth be less than $1.7 million and to allow that amount to be adjusted in line with inflation. Section 30 modifies inspection fees for grain buyers. Section 31 modifies grain storage fees. Section 32 is from Senate File 621, from Senator Dames, modifies the ASTM specification for petroleum products in the chapter on weights and measures. The next, Section 33 through Section 38 are from that same bill from Senator Dames. So Section 33 modifies the ASTM specification for gasoline blended with ethanol. Section 34 modifies the specification for denatured ethanol. Section 35 modifies the specification for gasoline blended with non-ethanol oxygenate. Section 36 modifies the specification for denatured ethanol. Section 37 modifies the specification for gasoline in the gasoline tax chapter. And Section 38 modifies the specification for gasoline blended with non-ethanol oxygenate. Section 39 is from Senate File 1935, authored by Senator Mohammed. It inserts a new section prohibiting elective declawing of cats. In Section 39, the civil penalties were removed from the bill language. Section 40 allows the commissioner to award grants for the purchase and distribution of food to Minnesotans experiencing food insecurity. This is from Senate File 2430, authored by Senator Kunish. Section 41 contains repealers. These are from the Department of Agriculture bills. Paragraph A repeals rules relating to seed potatoes. Paragraph B repeals a reporting requirement related to the biodiesel content mandate that has been implemented. And paragraph C repeals two sections in the Board of Animal Health chapter relating to rabies proclamations and written bills of sale for branded livestock. Section 2 states that except where otherwise stated, the whole Article 3 is effective August 1st, 2025. Article 4 contains provisions relating to livestock market agency and dealer licensing. The whole article is from Senate File 2611. It's the Department of Agriculture's policy bill. It modifies definitions, revocation and claims procedures, and makes conforming changes. And I don't intend to go through this article section by section. Moving on to Article 5, contains modifications to provisions relating to seed potatoes. All of these sections are from Senate File 2458, which is the Department of Agriculture's budget bill. It updates several sections of the inspection and enforcement chapter to include the revised seed potato provisions, inserts a number of definitions that are currently in the rules, and makes other changes related to seed potatoes. Again, I don't intend to go through the article section by section. Finally, Article 6 modifies food handler licensing provisions. Again, this is from the department's budget bill, Senate File 2458. The article amends definitions and increases license fee and is effective August 1st, 2025. There are two sections in this article that are from a different bill. Section 10 and Section 13 are both from the department's policy bill, Senate File 2611. And that concludes my walkthrough.
Thank you, Ms. Painter and Mr. Olson, for very thorough walkthroughs, although living in a town where a potato is our mascot, a little disappointed we did not do all of the seed potato provisions. but that's okay. Senator Putnam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I want to take a second to also thank Ms. Painter and Mr. Olofsson, not just for their incredibly stimulating read-through of all those details, but also for all your hard work putting them together in the first place. Members and Mr. Chair, this bill is an effort to craft a strong Senate position. A Senate position that we have an opportunity to learn about a little bit more today and also to amend, alter, and critique on Friday. But I do want to say that I think that this is, at its outset, a balanced bill that reflects the needs and the concerns of Minnesotans and Minnesota's agricultural economy. You'll see that if you do the math, as I asked Mr. Olofsson to do for us today, about 30% of this bill is going towards ag protection services, things like responding to avian influenza and stopping its growth and proliferation. 30% of our bill is dedicated towards that. About 15% of this bill is giving food to people, making sure that people have access to food. And another around 10% is for direct services to farmers themselves. I think that that's a pretty good balance, and it reflects a lot of what we've heard from farmers throughout the session. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Olofsson and Ms. Painter, for this opportunity to talk through the budget.
Okay, and with that, let us go to testifiers then, and then we'll take questions after that. So believe we are going to start out with the Deputy Commissioner, Andrea Vobel.
I'm going to be very formal.
You may state your name and begin your testimony.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. For the record, my name is Andrea Vobel. I serve as Deputy Commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. I will be brief. I just want to thank Senator Putnam profusely for this fantastic bill. We are so grateful that so much has been included from the governor's budget, including the operating adjustment and the ag emergency account. We're also very grateful for things like meat inspection, wolf elk depredation payments, farm to school, LFPA, farm safety. We look forward to a continued conversation to get this bill in a great spot at the end, and we're just very grateful again for the partnership and for the thoughtful bill that was put together. Okay,
thank you. Next, and I always mess up this last name, but it's Hunter Petter's son, something like that. You can state your name for the record. It's a long P. Thank you, Senator Westrom. P. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction, Chair Kupek. For the record, my name is Hunter Peterson, and I'm the Public Policy Specialist for Minnesota Farm Bureau Federation, where I have the privilege of representing over 31,000 family farm and ranch members from across Minnesota. Thank you for the opportunity today to testify in support of the A3 Delete Everything Amendment to Senate File 2458. I want to take this time to thank Chair Putnam and each of the committee members, as well as the committee staff, for your hard work and your continued support of farmers as well as the larger agricultural community. There are many provisions in this bill that we support, and I'm just going to briefly highlight a few of those. First, we appreciate that this bill takes seriously the animal disease challenges facing agriculture. The operating adjustment for the Board of Animal Health, as well as the investments in the Ag Emergency Account and the Agri Protect Grant, will ensure Minnesota is positioned well to swiftly respond to these crises. We also support the increased dollars for wolf and elk depredation payments, the Minnesota Agricultural Education Leadership Council, MALC, the Minnesota Agricultural and Rural Leadership Program, as well as the Farm to School program. And thank you as well for the inclusion of the Farmer Mental Health and Farm Safety grants. All these initiatives will directly support our farmers, ranchers, and rural communities, while also keeping an eye towards the future. The state's fiscal situation right now requires that we revisit and rebalance priorities. Overall, this bill does that very well. I do want to be candid and note that while we support the bill, there are, of course, reductions to fundings that we do support, like the green ammonia and biofuels infrastructure. But given the committee's target, again, we understand the rationale and that tough decisions have to be made. So, again, very thankful for the committee's hard work on this bill. Look forward to continuing to work with Chair Putnam and Conference Committee and getting a strong agriculture budget across the finish line. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to testify in support of the bill today.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Stu Laurie is next.
Yeah, that's good.
Mr. Laurie, you can state your name and begin your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Kupek and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Stu Laurie, Government Relations Director for Minnesota Farmers Union, and on behalf of our members, I'm glad to share support for Senator Putnam's DE amendment to SF 2458. I think an ag budget on the state does a few things. A good ag budget, it fills gaps left by the federal government and federal farm programs. It helps us look towards the future and helps us build an agricultural economy that's more resilient, distributed, and fair. And I think this does that in big ways. And so I'll start, first and foremost, our members are really concerned, given the fiscal picture of the state, about strong funding for ag programs more broadly. So I will echo support for strong funding for MDA, AURI, Board of Animal Health, those operating increases, and also the fact that base funding for these programs is largely left unchanged. I'll also highlight, and particularly in the change items, a couple buckets of things that we were really excited to see prioritized in this proposal. First and foremost, programs to improve market access for farmers, and particularly where we've seen those gaps left by the federal government. We see new investments in farm to school, a new state local food purchasing assistance program, which is hugely important. Both of those, we've seen the feds roll back programs that would have benefited Minnesota producers, and we're glad to see the state step up where they can. We also see investments in helping build on the state's progress to rebuild local and regional processing. I'll highlight the increased funding for state meat and poultry inspectors. Not the most exciting proposal, but is critical. I mean, our members can't market their products without state inspection often, and that's just a huge piece for continuing to support that industry. Finally, just want to highlight the many programs here that provide support to farmers who need it. We've been doing listening sessions around the state farmers union. I think we're in number 8 of 10 or maybe 9 of 10, and Senator Kupek's district right now today, some colleagues are there, and we've been hearing a lot about the challenges facing the agricultural economy. I think the new investments in helping farmers access farm business management, renewed funding for farm safety and rural mental health, continued support for the farm advocate program, and all those pieces are going to be really important. We also realize that you're crafting a budget within a budget target given to you by leadership, and we realize this is the first step. So in the spirit of that, we wanted to share some pieces that we hope you can prioritize going forward. First and foremost, Senator Kupek, you brought forward a bill to make Agri a dedicated account to really build on the progress and make sure the money that we dedicate to Agri stays in Agri. We'd love to see that prioritized going forward. I'll also reemphasize our strong support for the Green Fertilizer Grant Program. This is really a nation-leading grant program. I know you share the vision because you led that bill, Senator Putnam, and we're really eager to see strong funding continue for that. We have a lot of uncertainty as we work to build that industry coming from the federal government, and having the certainty from the feds or from the state will be really important. The reduction in the dairy program, the noxious weed funding that could be continued, and the reduction in the biofuels infrastructure grants are also things we'd love to continue a conversation on. But broadly, this is a great start to an important conversation, and we sincerely appreciate all your work to put it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laurie. Next, we're going to go online to Peter LaFontaine. So if you are there, Mr. LaFontaine, you can turn on your camera and begin. Maybe hold on one second. We're waiting to adjust our camera on our end.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, now we've got you on camera here too. So you may state your name and begin.
Thanks, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to testify this afternoon. I'm Peter LaFontaine, the Ag Policy Manager for Friends of the Mississippi River. We work to improve the health of the river and its watershed through a variety of approaches, including critical habitat restoration, land use planning, and of course, agricultural sustainability programs. Years of research and analysis have led us to conclude that the most promising path to sustainability is the widespread adoption of market-based, continuous living cover farming systems. These deliver a wide range of environmental and public health benefits, including clean water, healthy soil and wildlife habitat, all while providing additional diversified revenue streams for farmers. And with that in mind, we're really grateful for your support for the U of M's Forever Green initiative, which is the research and development engine that propels this entire effort. Minnesota has a tendency to downplay its accomplishments, but I'm originally from New Hampshire, so I feel authorized to tell you that the folks at Forever Green are truly national leaders, and they're among the brightest, most dedicated people I've ever known. So thank you for continuing to invest in the program. On the flip side, novel crops, they really need new value chains to reach consumers, and we were disappointed to see that the omnibus doesn't include funding for MDA's Developing Markets for CLC Crops grant program, which is a complementary effort that helps local businesses undertake the difficult work of building these value chains, whether by investing in crucial equipment, supporting farmer cooperatives, or developing new products. You know, I realize that the legislature is running out of couch cushions to root through here, but strongly encourage you to reconsider this omission as the bill moves ahead. Just in conclusion, you know, the state has spent hundreds of millions over the years to address the environmental and public health costs of row crop agriculture, but we have made little progress toward our goals. And it's time for a meaningful pivot toward a more durable and ultimately affordable approach, which is continuous living cover farming. Thanks for your consideration. Thanks for your work this session, and we look forward to working with you more in the future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. LaFontaine. Next is Laura Schreiber. And you can state your name and begin your testimony.
Thank you, Chair, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Laura Schreiber. I'm the Government Relations Director for the Land Stewardship Project, and really appreciate the opportunity to comment and share our support for Senator Putnam's bill here. Just background on Land Stewardship Project, our mission is to support a more sustainable and just farm and food system. And on behalf of all our members, really excited to talk about this bill. I'll just touch on a few of our top priorities that are included in the DE amendment, namely the Farm to School and Early Care Program is really a vital program for market access and getting high quality local food in our schools, and especially see it as a really good opportunity for beginning farmers and smaller operators to gain market access. So, of course, you know, we were disappointed to see the federal funding cuts to local food for schools and the local food purchase assistance program, and really thank you all for your leadership to add more funding to the Farm to School program and then start up the new state local food purchase assistance program. These programs really will get food to the folks who need it most, so really appreciate your work there. Another area, a priority area for us is increasing opportunities for land access. I'm glad to see that funding has stayed whole for the Farmland Down Payment Assistance Program and continuing to support the Emerging Farmers Office. For the down payment assistance grant program, we have heard from folks, you know, if there's a possibility of increasing the grant award to be able to utilize that funding and also extend the period that they have to utilize the funding. Right now it's 6 months, and have had a number of grantees who have been unable to utilize that funding in the time allotted. Lastly, soil health has been a long-standing priority for LSP, and really thank you for the inclusion of funding for the Forever Green initiative, the soil health financial assistance grants, and connectedly, adjusting the livestock investment grant program to allow 50% cost share for the first 20,000, and then the 20% cost share for the remaining 200,000. As you all work to continue to finalize this bill, just wanted to also echo, hope that you can continue to work on creating a dedicated account for Agri and ensure that the funding for these programs can stay there. And one thing that I think is really exciting about Agri program in general is the innovation and flexibility that MDA can have with this funding. So for, you know, creating the Prepare grant program that allowed farmers to invest in their climate resiliency, but also in 2021 we were able to pivot and provide drought relief to farmers. So want to hope that there can be more conversation to include that dedicated fund there. And with that, I'll wrap up my testimony, but thank you so much for all your work on this bill and creating a bill for our farmers and rural communities of Minnesota. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Next, we have Bruce Clavin. That's with a long K, I believe.
I thought it would be helpful to sit to the left of you.
That's helps in some audiences and others.
You may state your name and begin.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Bruce Clavin. Just a number of comments today. I promised Mr. Roth I'd have two. I sat in the back and made two preliminary ones, and that is just in thanks to the committee for recognizing the avian flu issue with the Board of Animal Health funding and the emergency response. In particular, the turkey lasers we're finding on page 8, at the bottom of page 8. I know in the supplemental year you couldn't do that. It became part of the livestock program, but this was a specific appropriation, so I want to recognize that on behalf of the poultry industry. Also, the depredation payments have gone up.
Maybe have them get a little closer to the microphone.
Have gone up 20, in this bill, 25 to 30% on the wolf and crop depredation, and so those funds are short. And so by appropriating this, this will be very helpful. So to my 2 points, you might remember a few weeks ago, Senator Lang had his bottle bill in here with the fiber out of the beets. That's plastic and PFAS replacement. And there's no dollar amount associated with that here. And I'm coming up with a potential solution that doesn't mess up your spreadsheet. And I'm only raising this today because I'm not going to be here Friday for markup day, and so I thought I could make the pitch here. But the concept would be to have qualifying language in the agri-fund appropriation, because you have several qualifiers on page 5. On line 5.5, the 16.628 million, that's the old ethanol tails account. And for many of us that were here in the 90s, we worked on the ethanol tails, and we worked and supported those plants, and then the idea was when those were done, other folks would have a crack at this fund. There's a whole bunch of qualifiers here, but the concept would be to have rider language, one sentence, and if it got in here, then we could appeal to the benevolence of the department after the session closes, but at least it would be qualifying. And it would say this, and I can email this to Ms. Painter and Mr. Roth. On page 5, line 32, after the semicolon, it would insert something like this: supporting the commercialization of an innovative material additive utilizing ag co-products or waste streams to produce fiber-based barrier packaging to reduce PFAS and plastics in packaging products. Something like that would qualify that for agri, and if the department so chose, they could see if there was any coins for that after the session. So that's a suggestion for the committee. The second one would be on page 44. You don't need to turn there, but it's where it would go, and that is Senator Dame's bill on restricted use. In talking to Senator Putnam, I don't think there was a problem with the policy, but we understand there's a fiscal note. I don't think it's done, but when it is, you're going to have to count for it on the spreadsheet, and so it's not in the bill, but we were hoping to see the Dame's language on page 44. As I've understood from the department, when they did their plan, it took them 4 years to do their plan with EPA. I haven't seen it. I don't know it. I don't know what's in it. But I think the interesting thing is there was no fiscal note with that. They just sort of did it. And when we have a bill now to tweak it, now we have to give them money. And so I'm hoping they can absorb it. I don't know if they can, but they did before last time they did their plan. And so we don't have the number unless it's come this afternoon. I haven't seen it, but I wanted to raise that point, that I don't think there was an issue with the policy. It was more accounting for it on the spreadsheet. So those are the 2 points I would make if I was going to be here Friday to work on amendments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clavin. And then finally, online, we have Carly Griffith. And if you are there you are. Turn on your camera, and we're waiting to see you. I can see you in the tiny screen, but I can't see you on the big screen. 1 second. Okay, you can begin your testimony. It's just state your name to start.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Carly Griffith. I'm the Water Program Director at the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy. I know that you've had to make difficult decisions to arrive at the budget before you today. And as the bill moves forward and you consider amendments, I'm here to urge you to reconsider inclusion of Senate File 1183 for nitrate private well mitigation. There's been significant attention and discussion at the Capitol on how to address widespread nitrate contamination in groundwater in areas like southeastern Minnesota. There is no single silver bullet, and the solution will require both immediate public health measures and long-term source reduction. What this bill targets is the moment when a family with a private well finds out that the well water they rely on is contaminated above human health limits for nitrate. At that moment, what are the options that are available to them? This bill answers that question with its mandate to continue and expand last year's appropriation from this committee for reverse osmosis home treatment. And in instances where the structural integrity of the well itself is compromised, this bill adds the option of well repair and reconstruction. Last year's appropriation successfully established a program that has already installed over 150 home reverse osmosis treatment systems. However, when the money from last session has been spent, there will still be thousands with income-based need. I urge you to reconsider Senate File 1183 to answer that need. Thank you for the opportunity to testify and your work on the committee.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Griffith. And with that, that has concluded the testimony. So again, we are marking this up, taking amendments on Friday, but are there any questions or discussion from members at this moment? Senator Dornick looks like he wants to go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Senator Putnam for the bill. Nice work. I just had a couple questions. One was on the milk marketing license in the bill. Some background information on that one, if you would. I'm not sure if you can, or if there's somebody here that could.
Okay, you can just state your name for the record.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Nicole Neeser. I work as the Division Director for the Dairy and Meat Inspection Division at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture.
Okay, Senator Dornick, what's your question?
Just some background on the information. Was there an issue in the state of Minnesota, or that we're trying to fix, and then, or if it was maybe copied after another state? So yeah, just some background information would be great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Senator. Committee members. Yes, so over the past couple of years, there have been multiple instances where dairy producers have not been paid for their milk by their milk marketing organization, or essentially the company that is buying milk from them. And through that experience, we've learned that we really have no way to help rectify that situation or to address the situation where a processor or a buyer of milk is not paying those producers. So essentially raw milk is exempted from some of the other produce programs that we have for bonding and that kind of thing. We do currently have a license type in our statute that's for milk marketing associations, but it exempts companies that have a processing plant, and so most companies have a processing plant, so we have very few companies that actually get that license type. And then along with that, we have no criteria for what a milk marketing organization has to have or be, or do they even have to have the financial wherewithal to pay producers. There's no criteria at all for that. And so this proposal represents an effort to provide some greater structure to that, particularly for processors that also own plants, but also out-of-state buyers. So right now we have no way of holding anyone accountable, whether they're in-state or out-of-state. So we did look at, in developing this proposal, we did look at a number of state programs that have either bonding or some sort of fee that they charge on milk to support payments to producers when processors don't pay them. So this one is modeled a bit after the Wisconsin program, and it does not go as far as the Wisconsin program. It's sort of a medium place where we've created a license type or a different. We've eliminated the original license type and provided more clarity to what and who needs to be licensed under this, and then allows us to collect financial reports or at least have the entity prove that they can pay producers for milk. So that's been part of the problem, is just anyone can go buy milk from a dairy producer, and then if they don't pay them, there's really nothing we can do about that. So at least requires them to provide a minimum level of proof that they can pay producers for the milk that they're buying for them. So this is a start in terms of providing a structure for that, and would apply to both in-state and out-of-state buyers of milk in Minnesota.
Senator Dorn?
Thank you, appreciate that. No further questions for me, thank you.
Senator Westrom?
Mr. Chair, following up on that, so what's going to be new with this license, and who's it going to be covering?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair and Senator. Yes, so what's new? There's a new name, so it has a different name, so it's for milk marketing businesses. What's new is there's a higher fee, so the current fee for a milk marketing association, and to think about who had to buy the previous license, was typically a buyer of milk that did not have a dairy plant. So there's only a few businesses that essentially just buy and sell milk. In Minnesota, most of them are associated with the plant. So it would bring in anyone who buys milk, even if they have a plant. And then it creates a structure for the Department of Agriculture to request financial reports and producer lists to say, well, who are you buying milk from, and do you have the, generally speaking, it doesn't require any kind of specific certified report or anything, but just generally speaking, do you have the financial ability to pay those producers? And then it creates also a penalty for not acquiring a license, because we've also seen this pop up where anyone can buy milk from dairy producers, and we might not know who they are, and they're not following any of the rules. So it adds a penalty in for not purchasing a license prior to buying milk from dairy producers.
And Mr. Chair, so does this apply, I think you mentioned it doesn't apply to personal consumption purchases from dairy farms or raw milk? Or what's going to be the line of deciding who can consume milk and purchase it without a license and who can't? Where's that line drawn? Or does it cover consumers that are wanting to buy raw milk or direct from the farmer?
Mr. Chair and Senator, this would not apply to any consumers that are purchasing raw milk directly from farms. This would apply to sales of raw milk to another entity that is going to, well, is purchasing milk in bulk from those farms. So it really doesn't address consumers. We would consider that a retail sale. That would be a different type of transaction.
And
Senator Westrom?
And Mr. Chair, how many gallons is going to meet that threshold? What's going to be the determinative factor of they don't fall under this new license?
Dr. Neeser.
Mr. Chair and Senator, so a retail sale would be different. So retail sales in general will not fall under this. So if a sale directly to a raw milk consumer would be considered more of a retail sale, so there's not really a financial threshold. We do have two categories of licenses proposed. One would be for procurement of milk under 700,000 pounds per year, which is equivalent of a statutory two different categories that we have right now, and one would be for over that procurement. So we're talking about businesses that are procuring large volumes of milk from dairy farms.
Senator Westrom.
And Mr. Chair, can you give us some examples of the problem you're trying to fix? I mean, what's the news story out there that apparently somebody didn't get paid, and where's the widespread problem? Can you give us multiple examples of what you're trying to fix here?
Dr. Neeser.
Mr. Chair and Senator, yes, so without naming any particular company names, I will say about 2 years ago, we had an incident where a medium-sized dairy processor was purchasing milk from 10 dairy producers, 2 of which were quite large. And so this dairy processing plant did not pay the producers for the milk that they purchased from them for months at a time. And for some of these producers, that was millions of dollars worth of product that they produced. And some of them were smaller producers. So we had everything from a small Amish producers to large farms of hundreds of cows implicated in this. And through that experience, it essentially was publicized that the producers have no way of recouping that cost, and we have no regulatory authority for the processor to even understand whether they were financially feasible or whether even payment could be made. On the contrary, in the state to our east, Wisconsin, they actually had the authorities to do that and were able to provide those dairy producers with some compensation for that due to their having a much stronger framework for that. So producers that sold to the same processor. This proposal is a start to this process. It basically creates that framework, but it doesn't go as far as creating a system to compensate the producers.
And Mr. Chair, that was where my next question was going to go. So is the Department of Ag now going to take on the ownership or the liability of paying the producers? Or are we just putting in new license and new regulations that really aren't going to do anything for the producers anyways, except make some more people pay a new fee, a new fine, or a fee and get a license, or else be a criminal? What are we doing so the department, because you keep saying they don't have remedies, what is the department going to do so they now get paid and have this remedy?
And before you answer, I will just remind you, we do have to hear Senator Herr's bill, and then we still have to reconfigure ourselves as a Veterans Subcommittee. So, and we will be talking more about this on Friday.
Sure.
But why don't you answer this question, and then if we need to do more on, we'll have more time on Friday.
Yes, Mr. Chair and Senator. So this does modernize. So we do have a current license that addresses this. So it's not necessarily creating an entirely new licensing program, but it does allow us to deny a license to a company that cannot prove that they financially can pay producers for milk. So it would create that authority to us, and it also gives us some enforcement authority to administer penalties, but it does not give us administer penalties in the event that a processor is not paying producers or not following the requirements. But it does not go as far as creating an indemnity fund or a produce bonding situation to make producers whole.
And Mr. Chair, a final point. You keep saying there's no remedy. I would respectfully disagree strongly with that, because if that's the case, I don't know how business runs in this state. There is a remedy, and it's called the judiciary system and the court system, and it's the same way every other small business gets remedy relief if they aren't getting paid for the widgets or the products or whatever it is that they are providing or the service they provided. I mean, sometimes they have to go to court and do this. That's what business does all the time. And so why do you think there's not a way to have relief when you make that statement?
Go ahead and answer that.
Mr. Chair, Senator. Well, from experience through the situation that I described, I can tell you that we worked with several producers who described that the remedy available to them going through the normal court process was extremely costly and difficult to navigate. And when we're talking about even a very small business, with 40 cows, it becomes very hard to navigate that system. And then even the larger businesses where they were talking millions of dollars, they did explore those remedies, and as it turned out, those were not easy to navigate or maybe they didn't find them sufficient. And I think if you wanted additional details about their experience, we would have to talk with them.
Mr. Chair, the point I think you've just made is all we're doing is adding a new license fee. They're still going to have to go to the same place to get a remedy because the department's not backfilling this with something, and I'm not suggesting that they should, but I think this might be a provision we actually need to do a lot more work on. So Thanks for your answers.
We can take that up on Friday. Senator Anderson, but be mindful of time.
Thank you. I just have a thought as you're talking about this situation and milk marketing license. I remember several individuals who were trying to get into the dairy business in my area of Wright County, and because they couldn't get into First District, they couldn't get into another place where they would take their milk, they were actually dumping their milk. And so when you say that there are an outfit out there that will take a person's milk and then for 6 months can't pay for it, isn't that a remedy for someone who's trying to make their business go, trying to find an avenue to where they can distribute their milk, and hopefully 6 months or 3 months or whatever the case might be, instead of having to have them licensed to be able to purchase milk, to be able to say, I've got to get rid of this milk, I don't want to dump it, I'd like to give it to somebody. So to me, this is nothing that we should be putting into statute for our dairy farmers out there, especially those who are trying to get into the dairy business, and the milk people like the First Districts and others going out of state. I know this woman who got into the dairy business had to go to Wisconsin to sell her products, and that's a long ways for people to come, hour-and-a-half drive for a milk hauler to pick up her milk and then bring it back to the Wisconsin area. So just comments that I think this is a little bit over the top with a milk marketing license. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, any last comments, Senator Putnam? And again, we will be marking this up and we can take more discussion on this on Friday for sure.
No, just thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members, for the vigorous discussion.
Okay, and with that, I will step away, give the gavel back to Senator Putnam, and Senator Herr can head up and we can do the rodeo over here to my right.
Senator, our first order of business is to adopt the subcommittee report, and then we can discuss the bill itself. Senator Kunesh moves the adoption of the subcommittee report on Senate File 568. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Subcommittee report is adopted. Senator Herr, our purpose now today is to hopefully very efficiently to move this bill up to state and local government where its next conversation can occur. If you would please just remind us of the nature of the bill, and we can do that as efficiently as possible. Thank you, Senator Herr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This bill is to redefine the word veterans to include the special grant unit who were part of the American secret operation during the Vietnam War, in this case, the secret war in Laos, that nearly wiped out the entire Hmong community and the Hmong people of Laos, being proxy soldier to the United States. And 50 years have passed, and those who are part of the SGU unit are getting smaller and smaller. There's no more than 10% of them here in our state. I would say the amount counted to be under 1,000, and 1,000 is actually a larger estimate. So before they're all gone, before the greater generation are gone, and now there are 5 Hmong legislators of Hmong descent who all 5 are children of the SGU veterans themselves. 95% of the Hmong coming out of Laos are proxy soldier for America. So it's time that we give them the honor to note that they are veterans of the United States.
Thank you very much, Senator Herr. We have one testifier, Ms. Lee. If you would please, state your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you. I'm Jean Lee, President and Executive Director of Children's Hope International, which does legal advocacy and public policy. On our family centers, our shelters, housing and services, which includes health care, housing, and social services. I am from a family of veterans who served since World War II and events after that. And I wanted to thank the legislators who have been supporting America's Promise to these veterans and this has been long overdue for over 50 years. The legislation honors the veterans who fought for America, our democracy, our people, and saved the lives of thousands who have fought overseas like family members. Many of us are alive because those lives were saved. And I wish we could thank all the veterans who served, the SGU veterans. Some of them were here earlier this morning. There have been many state and federal officials, former legislators, and veterans who have passed away and others who have supported these efforts to help these SGU veterans. And so we want to thank the authors and co-authors, Senator Herb, Senator Pond, Senator Zhang, for continuing the efforts, and those on the House side. And I wish we could honor these veterans who have passed away. Maybe there's some way to do it posthumously, because they could have benefited from this, but they did not have the chance. So I want to thank all our legislators who are committed to America's Promise to help these veterans and honor them. And like I said, they have even helped my family who have served in the U.S. Armed Forces and many others. And a lot we have to be thankful for them. So we urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lee. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none. Senator Kupek moves that Senate File 568 be passed and referred to the Committee on State and Local Government. All in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Westrom?
Just a quick question. Did this go through Veterans Subcommittee already as well?
Yes, Senator Westrom, it did.
Okay, because, and Mr. Chair, can you remind us what the vote was there? Because Senator Herr, I know we've heard this before, but there does seem to be some controversy, especially from different folks that have served in the military, and I'm just concerned that that controversy I don't think is gone yet. And so what have you heard from others on this issue?
Senator Westrom, if I may, and Senator Herr, obviously you're empowered to answer as well, I will say that that was a voice vote, and I don't recall there being any negative votes in that voice vote when it passed through the Veterans Subcommittee. And I will say that Senator Herr and I met with MDVA this very morning and made tremendous progress. I do think that we're in a really good space to finally get this done because everyone's sitting around the table and a lot of work is getting done. But I'll defer to Senator Herr to sort of finish that characterization if he's interested in doing so.
Senator Westrom, there's no controversy at this time. I think everybody wants it. Right off the bat, when I come to this testify table, and I thought about General John Vesey, who's Minnesota grown, and there's a memorial up north, and I think if he's here today, he says it's by time we recognize. So there's no controversy as far as I know.
Senator Westrom.
So Mr. Chair, Senator Herr, have you made changes that have addressed those concerns, or what's had the controversy go away?
Senator Westrom, from our conversations today and also the movements in the other body, part of the concern was fiscal. But there's been an amendment that was adopted in the other body that shaped the kinds of benefits that would go to these individuals once this redefinition is made, so that it would no longer be expensive, is a big part of the movement that's been happened so far. There still are some other amendments and things that are being worked out that, Senator Herr, if you'd like to discuss them, you're welcome to.
And Mr. Chair, where did you say this was going to get moved to?
State and local government.
State and local government, okay. So it's just moving it there, it's not moving it to the floor or anything?
Oh, no, just to state and local. So there's still, I'm sorry, Senator Westrom, is there still some, I think, slight tinkering to do, but I would concur with Senator Herr's characterization that everybody's on board to working out the wrinkles.
And Mr. Chair, do you anticipate this being in the final version of a bill on Friday this week already, or when is this going to be still work done in the state and local gov, or are they working on it between now and Friday?
Senator Westrom, my expectation is that it's still going to be in state and local government before we would have a chance to put it in our omnibus for Friday. That's sort of what I expect.
I see. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not 100% sure that I don't have concerns on it, but I don't have any further right now.
Thank you, Senator Westrom. I appreciate it. So back to the motion at hand. Who did I blame? Senator Kupek still moves that Senate File 568 be passed and referred to the Committee on State and Local Government. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Senate File 568 has been passed and moved to the Committee on State and Local Government. Members, that being the conclusion of our business of the Committee on Agriculture, Veterans, Broadband, and Rural Development, note that we're coming back on Friday to do the markup and talk through some amendments and tweak the bill that we discussed today. But for now, we are adjourned.